Just a quick video. So when I received this car, the best thing about it, in my opinion, was these tail lights, and they were like mint. I mean, the paint was perfect. And then I had to move from where I was living, and I lived in the Rust Belt, but I was moving to another town about 30 miles away. And because I was in between renting and buying a house, I had to put my vehicles in storage, everything in storage basically, until I was able to close. But I didn't close till New Year's Day. So trying to, get everything emptied out of the storage units and everything. There was snow on the ground. Matter of fact, there was probably 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground when I transported these vehicles to my permanent location. And because this car, I had the torsion bar. Well, let me backtrack real quick, without going into a long drawn out story. I had to change the starter, and since there was headers already on this car, anybody that's familiar with headers on a B body, you pretty much have to jack up the engine, remove the header, remove the torsion bar in order to get the starter out. And it had the original big huge starter, and I put a mini starter in it. But since I was going to replace the suspension anyways, I just left the torsion bar down, so the front of the car was like this. So basically I had all of my stuff in storage. So in order to, and let me say, I had 4 storage units, and 2 out of the 4 were in a different town. So I had no tools with me, and I had to load this car on the trailer. And so since I was renting the trailer, I was in a time crunch. So I wasn't able to raise the torsion bar back up, so that way the front end would be normal. So long story short, this would not go on the trailer the right way. So we had to turn the car around and load it on the trailer backwards, because it just wouldn't go on the right way. It was just grounding out. That lower control arm was just digging right in. It wouldn't go up on the trailer. And I had 4 guys, and we tried lifting the front end up enough to push nothing. No. So trailering it here to my home, it was snowy, there was salt on the roads, and basically the salt from the back tires of my truck were spraying the back end of this car. So basically that salt ate into these taillight housings, and this is all corrosion here. So that broke my heart, because like I said, this was like the best looking part of the car, was these RT taillights, louvered taillights. So I mean, you could see how, I don't know if the light will show, but you could see how that top part, that's how the whole taillight looked. It was just beautiful taillight housing. So basically, it's to the point where, what am I willing to live with? Because I want to get this on the road, but I'm not willing to let these taillight housings just turn into utter garbage, because they're not cheap to replace. There's a set on eBay right now that they want $300 for, and I've seen some go for $1,000. The complete assembly with the taillight, with the that and the lens and the taillight housing, whole complete assemblies, they want like $1,000 for, which I'm not willing to spend. So what I did was I put this taillight housing in my blast cabinet. I have two different kinds of media. I have crushed glass and I have like Black Beauty. The thing is, with crushed glass, it does not touch corrosion. So basically I used crushed glass for the first couple days that I had my blast cabinet, and then I just switched out and I've been using Black Beauty on everything ever since. So because this is cast pot metal, you have to be very careful because it's a softer material than steel. So like these casting lines and stuff, it wouldn't be hard to totally wipe those out with blast media. So staying a good distance away, I blasted this thing, and and I got into the pits and got 90% of the corrosion out of it. You can see these darker spots. That's probably just the media stuck in the pits. Excuse me. So what I'm planning on doing is stripping both of these. And I wanted to shoot this video right now so that way I have a comparison to how it looked when it came out of the cabinet before it went in the cabinet. And actually this one was the worst out of the two. And it got inside, and it just, like I said, it broke my heart. That spring when I opened the doors to come out to the garage, because there's no heat out here, I seen that in just the three and a half months that this sat in the garage with that salt on it, it had done all that. So I was just sick. So this is the cabinet I'm using. It's just a Harbor Freight, and actually this reclaimer is from Harbor Freight as well, but you can't get it in the store. You have to go to their online store to buy it. It's it's a Chicago Pneumatic or whatever, or not Chicago Pneumatic, but Central Pneumatic brand, but you have to get it through their website. And actually it's meant for their industrial blast cabinet, which is also on their website, but I didn't buy that. This is the compressor I'm using. It's nothing special. It's a 60 gallon or 65 gallon, 60 gallon it says, 6.5 horse. I've had this since like 1998, 99, and basically it runs constantly. It's not an ideal setup, but it does the job. And it's nothing special. And I had to make this, I restricted the air down quite a bit to where it isn't sucking the media directly into the reclaimer. So that's basically my setup for my blasting, if anybody was curious. It could be better. I could have a better air compressor. I could have a dryer system hooked up to where there wouldn't be any moisture. But what I did was I upgraded the gun. I took the gun away. I didn't even use it, and I got that and it's that, I don't know if you want to call it a gun, but anyways, that's the upgrade I made, and it's made for vapor blasting, so the water doesn't clog it up, and I have very little clogs using that the way it is. one thing I will say is that these cabinets, and everybody, I've read comments and reviews on these things, everybody agrees these things leak bad. Not really bad, but I just cleaned before I started using that, and that's, you can see there's media on the floor there. What I would do in retrospect, not even bother with any of the foam that comes in the kit. I would just take my welder and just weld up everything so it's just a solid unit. This top part isn't supposed to be like this. I made it that way so I could top load it, because as you can see, side loading it would be a pain in the neck with all the garbage I have. And I clean my garage like every other day, but it ends up like this after doing a few jobs. So that's it. That's just an update, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I use these earmuffs because actually the reclaimer is louder than the air compressor. Even though the air compressor is running constantly, that reclaimer is louder, and it's like right in your ear. So also, this light sucks. You can hardly see anything, and it gets, since it's inside the cabinet, it gets blasted, and it really reduces down the light in there. So usually I will use I'm trying to do this one-handed. Usually I'll shine a light in there from the glass on the part so I can see what I'm blasting. See, in the glass, I'm gonna have to replace the glass pretty soon. It comes with these replaceable sheets that you can put on the inside. They suck. You know, they're like staticky, and they collect a lot of dust on them, and you go through them. I went through the two that came in the package, and within the first few hours of me using this cabinet. But I mean, as far as it does the job, it just takes longer. I blasted this. This is for my upper door panel. It'll blast paint off fairly quickly, actually. But the problem is with this is all glue, and it will not, I mean, you have to sit there and just hold it right on the basically a 1/4 inch away from the panel, and it'll just barely just eat it off, and it wastes a lot of air, a lot of time, and having it that close to the panel. I mean, I'm not worried about warping this, but if you had something that was delicate, it would warp it. But the problem is when you have, a media and it's that close to a workpiece, it'll just pound that media, and it'll just break it up and turn it into dust. It'll like prematurely wear out your media. So this middle section here, I spent the most time on, digging away at the adhesive, and then I just stopped. I just continued blasting the rest of it, and now I'm gonna use like a razor blade or Goo Gone or whatever to get this stuff off. These longer pieces are very difficult to blast inside the cabinet. That's another reason why I made it a top loader, so that way I can, tilt it and twist it and turn it and everything fairly easily, or more easier than it would have been if I just had kept with the side door. So that's it. One other thing, I'm going to use I threw all my old cans away. I'm going to use a 2K epoxy primer on all this stuff, so that way it'll seal it up nice, and then I'll probably just leave this in an epoxy primer like I did the back ones. But I will epoxy prime these, and then I will find a satin black, and I might spray like a high build primer before I put the satin on, just so that way I could try to fill in those divots and smooth them out so you can't see them in the final finish. I'll see how it looks after I prime it, epoxy prime it, seal it. Epoxy primer is basically, it's a sealer. It's not really a primer in the sense that you would prime something, you know, to block or whatever. So that's it. That's a longer video, I'm sorry, but that's just what I wanted to touch on and explain in case anybody was curious of my setup, and explain how salt is no bueno with these old cars. All right, take it easy. Bye.